Hi, this is Ellen J. Mann, and you're watching the Honor Yourself show. And today with me I have my guest, Connie Gorrell, and we're going to talk about different ways that we can honor ourselves, especially when we have situations that aren't comfortable or situations that are very bad or tragic, and to come out to the other side. So the Honor Yourself show is the place to be when you want information and inspiration on rediscovering the real you and also having the life that you desire and deserve. So welcome, Connie.
Well, thank you for having me, Ellen.
I love it.
I do too. Thanks for the forum.
So I asked you to be on our show just for really three reasons. One, I love your energy.
Thank you.
And I know that when you are surrounded by the people that really can charge you up, it charges you up as well too and raises your energy.
It does do that, but it does that same thing to you too. I've seen it.
Oh, it's so cool. The second reason I wanted to have you on your show is you've been been an inspiration to me and a lot of other women in the area because of your story, and more importantly, how you came through the other side with such grace and are really have a purpose now in helping other people honor themselves, especially women.
Absolutely.
And then the third reason is you have an event coming up soon that we're going to talk about later.
Yes, sir.
That I want the community to know about, because
thank you.
The second one was the first one that I went to last year was just so powerful.
And that was the first one.
I know.
Yes, that was the debut.
It was so cool. So we'll talk about that a little bit later and go from there. So you've had a very tragic experience in your life. Can you tell us a little bit of what happened?
Yes, I can. My husband and I have been married 19 years next month. It doesn't seem like it. But when we got married, we had 4 sons. I had 2 sons and he had 2 sons, and they were stair-stepped, and they were 1 year apart each one, his being the oldest and youngest, and mine were in the middle, I think is how it went. But we tried to have a blended family, and we live near Woodburn, and my children grew up about 70 miles from here, so we were kind of doing a lot of shuffling around. But anyway, through all the trials of blending a family, which is hard to do in and of itself, then we tried to just make our base here at home. But as we were trying to build our new home and blend our new home, in between the years of 1999 and 2008, we lost all 4 of our sons.
Wow.
And they were all unrelated, all unexpected, all very stunning and shocking. And none, like I said, none were expected in a variety of ways. But that's a book for another day as far as all of that goes. But to talk about the tailspin that puts a person into is, I can speak from my heart firsthand on that. Absolutely. But, and you talked about transition, and the transition from that is, at first it's stunning. We lost my husband's youngest son in 2000, I keep wanting to say 2009, but it was 1999. I lost 10 years there, and it does feel that way sometimes too. But we lost him in 1999, and there were so many times that people have said to us, not even knowing what was ahead the rest of the road, just lost the one son, and for all we knew, that was all we were going to lose. And people have asked my husband and I many, many times, how did your marriage survive that? How did you do that? Because so many times marriages don't survive these kinds of things.
Right.
So, but I remember very distinctly, it was very shortly after our son passed away, and my husband and I very deliberately made a vow to each other. And we felt at that point in time, that day, that we'd lost enough already, and to lose each other was not going to be an option. Wow. So we maintained that vow. And we really maintained that vow, which was a good thing. And I did a radio show a while back, and the host asked me if we ever faltered from that. And I can honestly say we've never faltered from that.
Is that right?
No, because it was just that important at that point in time. So by the time we've lost the other 3, not having a clue that we were going to be going through anything of that sort, but to keep that kind of a vow. And that's what I really try to teach people too, and others that are going through any kind of similar circumstances at all like this, is to maintain the love you had, not to play any blame games or anything like that, or not to emit blame onto one another. You should have this and you could have that, because that's going to serve no one. Right. So our vow stuck with us. Then I lost actually both of my sons in 2001. They were 21 and 24, and I actually lost them less than 7 weeks apart.
Wow.
With 9/11 in the middle. So you talk about stunning, and that's quite the detour from what we'd planned, And then in 2008, we lost his oldest son as well. All of these were, like I said, they were unrelated. They were illnesses and accidents, a little of this and a little of that, and, just a tragic story, and life-changing. At that point in time, I had started a business in education and was doing very well in this area, and expanded it to other cities in Indiana. Love education, love doing education, love planning events, and that was my passion. But needless to say, in the fall of 2001, when I found myself with no surviving children, I just couldn't go on with that. Right. Transition is a funny word, because you do have to go from point A to point B somehow. And if that means just keep breathing, if it means just doing nothing but sitting, sometimes you have to do that. Right. And you have to figure this out in some way. And that was a very tough thing to do. Because even innocent questions, if I go get my hair done, and the stylist will say, well, how many children do you have? I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to launch into a big story. I didn't want to tell that story. I didn't want to say I didn't have any, So there was a lot of little things that had to go into places that you had to figure out and find out where to categorize yourself.
Now, did you have a good support system before this all started to transpire?
My family is about 70 or so miles away, and Brent's family is all Allen County from generations past, and so we did have family close by, and we had friends, but you tend to kind of isolate yourself in times like that. Maybe not meaning to as much, but sometimes you need that buffering system where it's exhausting to talk. I loved it when friends or family called on the phone. I wouldn't answer it, but I would listen to their message, and I know that they call, I know that they care, I know that they were concerned about us, but to have a conversation was exhausting at first. And that's where you talk about taking care of yourself. Sometimes you just have to step back. I always found it kind of odd that the sitcoms still came on TV, and the bills still came in the mail, and the world kept going, and there were expectations that still had to happen, and I couldn't figure that out. I just wanted the world to stop spinning for a second and let me catch my breath.
Yeah, I imagine that was so overwhelming to you when that came through too. And the world doesn't stop; it just keeps on going.
It does, and it has high expectations too.
You bet it does.
Because you still have to pay those bills, and you still have to go to work. And I'm married to an amazing man, because he did continue to work. I didn't, but he did. Wow. But I think men and women also handle things differently. And I think for him and most men, I think they like the distraction. They don't talk about their feelings as much as we do. They don't weep openly as we may, but I think we handle things differently. And I love my husband's point of view on things, because he speaks very eloquently and very touching wise. But it's great to know that I'm married to a man that helps me understand what other men may be going through.
That's awesome.
During a time like that, because he's a great spokesperson for that.
Yeah. I have a brother-in-law who just lost his father probably about 2 weeks ago, and very stoic. You ask, are you okay? Is there anything I can do? You want to talk about? Oh, no, things are just fine. It's day by day, and I'm getting through it. Well, that there's things going on inside of them, but people do handle things differently. Even women and women handle things differently.
Absolutely.
As well, too.
I can kind of speak to that a little bit too. With my first son's passing was in August, late in August of 2001, and we were at the funeral home, and his friends have an outpouring of grief. I mean, he had tons of friends, and I felt dutifully like I had to to make sure everybody was okay, not just me, but they were okay. And I think maybe that was my form of distraction. But it was kind of funny in a sort of morbid sort of way. But 7 weeks later, when we're in the same funeral home, and it's my other son now, people no longer knew what to say. There was an outpouring of grief, but it was different. And you could feel the resonance of it was completely different. And as people came through the reception line, they no longer knew what to say. Because we feel we need to take care of someone who's hurting. And I believe at my oldest son's funeral, they wanted to take care of me. Are you okay? And and I wanted to take care of them. But at the second funeral, in that instance, no one knew what to say to me. And it's really kind of interesting because elderly women were putting tablets of pills in my hand.
Is that right?
In the line, they'd say, "Here, honey," and press into my hand and say, "Here, take this, you'll feel better."
Yeah.
Or they had them wrapped in little cellophane wrappers, and I thought, what am I supposed to do with this? So I ended up putting things in my pants pockets, and I crinkled whenever I walked anywhere. So,
that's funny.
but we want people to feel better. We want to do something to ease that pain.
So what during that second situation, what would have been most helpful to you?
Actually, somebody did say the most perfect thing, and I've spoken about this before. They may be in a better place. At that point in time, there's no better place to a mother than, no, they need to be with me kind of mindset, or this was God's plan. And I grant that. Maybe it is God's plan, but that's still not something I wanted to hear at that point in time, because that made me angry at God. How could you do this to them, to me, to us, And so one of the things that was said to me that I felt was absolutely perfect was, "I will think of them often." That was perfect. And I thank that person for saying that, because even though there were other philosophical things being said to me, I smiled and I nodded and I thanked them for their concern. But inside I'm screaming, no, 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 no. So, I really appreciated the person who said, "I'm here if you need me. Say that if you mean it, but I will think of them often." There's no greater honor than to hear that.
Exactly. I heard too that the stronger the grief, the more love that there was. And so I always appreciate going where they're celebrating the life of that person and talking about all the wonderful things. And I know my mom used to say, "Oh no, you can't, don't laugh at the funeral home." But what better place to really celebrate a life, too?
Because I think culturally we didn't go there. We didn't think that. And I can honestly tell you that I, at that point in time, had not heard of such a thing. Because had I heard of a celebration of life, we would have done the same thing.
Yeah, wow.
But the transition, it takes time, and it just takes, you still have to take care of yourself, and you have to take care of your health, and make sure you're hydrated and drink lots of water, and talk to those whom you can talk to. But I just know that there were days that feeling like breathing was aerobics. Oh please, I have to brush my teeth again today. I just did that yesterday. So it's a process, and it's a tough one.
So what one thing could you tell the viewers about what they can do in that type of situation to help move forward and bridge that gap?
If they're the ones grieving or the ones
that are
around
grieving.
them. Oh, be gentle. Go gentle with thyself. That's what I say. There was an instance where I was reading a book, and that was the other thing that people did at my second son's funeral, was hand me a book, because they didn't know what to say. But this is a book about loss or grieving, so here, read this. And I finally did read a few of them, and there was one that spoke to me quite frankly, and it said, cry when you need to. I got on the lawnmower and cried. That's when I did, because nobody could hear me over the motor. But cry when you need to, and be gentle with yourself. And I had never it didn't dawn on me to give myself that permission. So give yourself permission to be gentle with yourself.
Exactly. Now you've taken your story and reignited a caring and celebration of women. So tell me a little about what's going on with that.
Well, I started my career as a registered nurse, and I worked at Parkview Women's Health Center. I helped open that, actually, and was doing events. This was after the passing of my children, and I loved doing events so much, and I gained a pretty good reputation for doing that. and Parkview approached me and said, please do our women's events. So I'd always been in women's health and women's health education, so it was the perfect thing for me to do. And so it was a natural progression that through the years, and that was years ago when that opened, but through the years I started doing more women's health education again. And this, it's called Celebrating the Spirit of Women. Are we going there now?
We're going there now.
Okay. It's called, is that what we're doing? It's called Celebrating the Spirit of Women. I got the spirit, I guess, to do that 2 years ago. I'd gone to Phoenix because I'm a writer, and I've written for Fort Wayne newspapers and magazines some, and working on my own books as well. But I'd gone to a writers' conference, and the keynote speaker at this writers' conference was a lady by the name of Sunny Dawn Johnston, and I don't even know how it managed to get in the same circle at the same time. But we did, and we connected immediately. So when I got home, good old Facebook, you can connect with just about anybody on Facebook these days, and we got connected. And I thought, I wonder if she would come here, because they're doing so many great spiritual things in Phoenix, but not so much in Fort Wayne.
Not in Fort Wayne.
So somebody needs to stir the pot a little bit. It might as well be me. So I asked her if she would come, and I put an agenda together, and as you know, the rest was history because you were there.
Exactly, I was. It was an awesome event. What was so amazing about it was there were a lot of different types of people there, and I was fortunate to sit with a woman who was there exhibiting. And I said, well, what do you think about all this? She said, I've never heard about this in my whole life. Because we're talking about angels, and we're talking about things that really impact
spirit and intuition.
Exactly. And she was amazed. She was just amazed.
In a good way, I hope.
Yeah, she was. She
Good.
was. And I've seen her about a year later. I met her at another event, and we had a conversation about it. So it was still mulling around in her head. And
well, as you know, I'm also co-founder of a networking group here in town called Spirit of Professional Women, which you attended the other day. And there are women in that group that had been at that event. And to this day, they say they still get goosebumps when they think about that. So I think I was driven at that point. I will admit it and say that I was not real sure about doing a spiritual type event in a mainstream setting in Fort Wayne when I did it. But something told me to continue on. And as you see, it was an amazing day. And there was a lot of just connections and a lot of good education and permission to use your intuition. And so after that event, then I thought, well, okay, maybe we can try this again. So we're trying it again.
And when is that?
It's October 4th at the Landmark Conference and Reception Center of Southwest Fort Wayne.
Wow.
It's going very, very well. We haven't done a mailing yet, but we have almost as many signed up now as we did last year.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
It was pretty small last year.
Yeah.
So we're hoping for a good audience. We're bringing in Stephanie Bennett Vogt, and Stephanie is from Boston. Stephanie wrote the book called Your Spacious Self, and what that's about is decluttering your life, basically. Decluttering your life, which declutters your spirit. So the spiritual practice of decluttering your life, basically. And she teaches it all over the world, which is why it's in October, because she's teaching in Italy and Spain in September.
Amazing.
We're bringing Stephanie, we're bringing in Sunny again, because last year her time got a little shorted, so we're bringing her back as well. Diane Anderson is the international corporate trainer and very dynamic and can wake you up really well in the mornings if you wanted her to, which we do, so she's coming back. And then local, Dr. Minzer's associate, Tina Zion, who's a medical intuitive, will have a portion of the day as well.
Wow. So is this just for women?
It is not just for women. It says celebrating the spirit of women,
Yeah.
but I also like to add in the men who love them.
Oh, awesome.
And there were men there last year, too.
There were. It was a great event in that way too, because there's so much giving and taking in those times too, especially during the breakout sessions and at lunch. There were some great conversations going on.
Absolutely.
So that's very exciting. And I'm going to do a passion test workshop coming up myself.
Oh, you have to tell me about that.
I will, just right now.
Okay.
So September 21st from 9 to noon here at the library. I'm holding a 3-hour workshop to talk about passion and the importance of passion in people's lives. Just like you experienced when we are very passionate about things and and we're doing that, we seem to be in the flow and doing what we need to be doing that makes us feel fulfilled. So if we want to have a more fulfilled life, we have to identify what our top passions are, and that's what the passion test does.
And I like to ask that question, actually, not what keeps you awake at night, but what gets you up in the morning.
Exactly.
What gets you up and going that you can't wait to go do? That's your passion.
Exactly. But so many people don't focus on it. One,
we're busy.
We're so busy, and we forget to honor that's important, because it also impacts the people around us too. So that's coming up too. So I have little thing going on myself.
I'll help you promote that.
Will you?
I will.
Oh, that'd be
of course.
Awesome. Oh, wait, I'll do that at the Spirit of Professional Women meeting next month. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So if people want to get a hold of you to learn more about celebrating the spirit of women, how would they do that?
They can go to www.celebratingthespiritofwomen.com. Celebrating the spiritofwomen.com. Yes.
Awesome.
Or just get me at conniegorrell.com.
Okay. All right. And I think we've got a slide coming up at the end that will give that information to our viewers as well too. And the same for me. My information will come up on the passion test, and you can call me or go to Ellen at ellenman.com. And I also love
everybody needs their name.com.
I know, isn't that cool? It's also important if people have questions, because I want to bring on more and more people like yourself that are truly an inspiration to other people, just so that they understand that there is other wonderful parts of life that they could
There's
be
a purpose
missing.
for all.
Oh, exactly. And looking behind the gift in any situation is so important.
Right.
I think we miss doing that too. Was there any other information that either viewers would like to know about the event, or about what should they wear? Should they be comfortable?
They should be comfortable. This is a comfortable day.
I love
Bring
that.
your warm fuzzy socks and your snack bag, and this has got so much. It's gotten so much more support, I guess is a good word for that this year. Actually, our sponsors are. Here I go.
Okay.
Our sponsors are Business People Magazine, and there will be a full-page spread in this coming issue. Fort Wayne Living, the Fort Wayne Chocolate Fountain, and Totally Inclusive Travel, Viking Performa. So we've got some really, really great sponsors and some really good displays. Every person that attends gets a gift bag.
Nice.
Yeah,
we all like
have
that.
presents.
I love that. Are you still looking for sponsors for your event?
We'll still, we'd like to have more vendor displays.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you know of anybody.
All right.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome too.
Well, it's a great way to target women in your market. If you want to brand to women, this is what you do. So actually what's really interesting about this particular next event is we have people that have registered from Phoenix to Florida.
Is that
to Columbus,
right?
Ohio.
Oh, how exciting
How
is
about
that? How
so
do they hear
maybe
about
we're
it?
onto something. I'm not real sure.
We could take this
But
on
whatever
the road.
it is, we'll continue doing it.
I love it. Are you thinking about doing multiple ones during the
I would like to. Yeah. When I was doing the healthcare event planning and the continuing education programming, we started in Fort Wayne and wound up in 5 cities in Indiana.
Is that right?
Yeah, we did. I mean, from South Bend to Evansville. So, we did 5 cities and found that there's needs there too.
There's so many needs for people, just an outlet for education, an outlet just to be surrounded by other like-minded people.
Absolutely, that's very important.
Yeah.
One lady did thank me last year for having something like that here, because she said usually they have to go to Chicago or someplace else. But I think I hope you can agree. But we've kept things very mainstream. This is very spirit-centered, a little edgy on the sides to some of the thought, but it's very spiritual, very angelic. I mean, God surrounds us at these events, and you can feel the passion. So, and I think that's just important to know that this is very mainstream still. We're not ready for any voodoo or anything like that yet. We're not going there yet. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But so it's just really very safe to come and be with like-minded people and get support where you need it.
And truly, a lot of it's, most, if not all of it's biblical anyways.
Very much so.
Yeah, Sonny speaks about angels and
yes,
is
and Bible verses.
Exactly. And a lot of the other speakers have things that appear in the Bible all the time, too.
And we prayed at the beginning, which is something different. We did a blessing at the beginning, and I had never been able to do that at an event, because at medical types events, there's very strict and rigid rules, which you cannot do. And I don't remember ever seeing that you couldn't have a prayer at the beginning, but it wasn't probably as accepted. And I was so happy to introduce Jeannie Schaub, actually, who did the blessing to get us started. And I think at that point in time, I knew we were going to be different. And I thought, this is the way it should be. This is how we should do things. And I felt very good about that.
Yeah. So there's a cost to this, yes?
There is a cost. It includes refreshments and a luncheon and gifts and door prizes. And actually, what's really neat about this particular one is, as you experienced last year, the speakers stay all day.
Yeah.
They didn't leave. They stayed and engaged themselves all day and talked and spoke and mingled with all of us. So, you know, it was just very relational. And I love that about it.
Are you thinking of different other speakers to bring in the next time? Or
I'm also now looking at bringing in some speakers internationally known for women in business. So, but she also has a spiritual twist to her as well, but one in particular that I'm thinking of, and I think we'll be looking at something like that in the spring. But it's a little different than celebrating the spirit of women, but this is more like for the spirit of professional women and women in business, because that's important too. We still need to look at mind, body, spirit, and business enrichment. So it's just the blended woman and men to find success throughout their lives and through all the hardships that we go through. There's always help somewhere if you're willing to look.
Yeah, willing to look is the big thing.
Yeah.
And not being afraid, because it does it can come from anywhere, just to be open to what's showing up.
It really can.
And
I have found that in many instances. But I also feel like there needs to be an exchange of energy. You know, there's give and there's receive. And I think we're brought up as young'uns to give. It's, you know, share your toys and share your food and share this and share that. But we don't receive so well.
Yeah.
So that's important for that balance of energy. When you need something, you need to receive something.
Exactly.
And part of that is asking.
And not being afraid to ask for
Absolutely.
it. And letting other people bless you and have that blessing, because
and
it is...
accept that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, fully. Exactly. Well, thank you so much for being on my show.
Well, thanks for having me.
I love it.
I loved it.
And I hope you can come back again.
We'll do it
sometime.
again.
Let's do that. That'd be awesome. And I also want to thank my crew here. They're awesome. They've stuck by and they make me look good. I don't know. But
I hope they can make me look good too.
Access Fort Wayne is so graciously offered this studio and help with doing these type of productions. So I hope the community understands that that's available to them as well. I want to thank my viewers for showing up, and please come back again. We air on Monday nights at 9 o'clock starting September 2nd, and then it repeats again on the following Tuesday at 1 p.m. And we're going to have a lot of other guests that come on that can be helpful and helping us have the life that we want.
Well, congratulations on your show.
Why, thank you. I love it. It's so much fun. And I truly want to thank my viewers for being here. And I want you to always remember to honor yourself and make this life as best as it can be, and be the light that God intended you to be. Thank you.